Each year at this season beginning on the 25th of Kislev, we remember the heroic acts of the Maccabees and their supporters who stood up against a mighty army to defend their right to worship in freedom and to fight for their independence. As we light this Hanukkah, we retell the story of Hanukkah.
In 167 BCE, Antiochus IV took control over Judea. He outlawed the practice of Judaism, raised altars to Zeus in the Holy Temple, and defiled the sacred altar. When the Assyrian soldiers arrived in the town of Modi'in and tried to force its residents to bow down to their idols, one man, Matthias ben Yochanan, refused. When his son Eleazar, Simon, John, Jonathan, and Judah, known as Maccabees, they led a revolt against Antiochus's oppressive policies.
One of the heroes of the story was a woman named Judith. While her town was ready to surrender to the Assyrians, Judith led a clever and dangerous plot to trick the Assyrian general Holofernes. She captivated him with her beauty and killed him while he was drunk. Her bravery and wisdom gave her people the courage to fight on towards victory.
So it took the Maccabees 2 years of fighting to regain the control of the temple. But when they did, they rededicated the sanctuary to the service of our God. We read their account in the first and second books of the Maccabees.
Then said Judah to his brothers, Behold, our enemies are crushed. Let us go up to cleanse the sanctuary and dedicate it. All the armies assembled and went up to Mount Zion. There they found the sanctuary desolate, the altar profane, and the gates burned.
Then they rent their clothes and mourned with great lamentation and sprinkled themselves with ashes. They fell face down on the ground and sounded the signal on the trumpets and cried out to heaven.
Then Judah and the priests cleansed the sanctuary and built a new altar like the former one. They also rebuilt the sanctuary and the interior of the temple and consecrated the courts. They made new holy vessels and brought the menorah, the altar of incense, and the table into the temple. Then they burned incense on the altar and lighted the lamps on the menorah, and these gave light in the temple.
Early in the morning on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Kislev, in the 148th year, they rose and offered sacrifice as slaughter racks on the new altar of the burnt offering, which they had built at the very season and the very day that the Seleucids had profaned it. It was dedicated with songs and harps and lutes and cymbals.
All the people fell on their faces and worshipped and blessed heaven, who had caused them to succeed. They celebrated the dedication of the altar for 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness. They offered a sacrifice of celebration and thanksgiving. Then Judah and his brothers and all the assembly of Israel determined that every year at the season, the days of dedication of the altar should be observed with gladness and joy for 8 days, beginning with the 25th day of the month of Kislev.